Hey, how's everybody doing? I hope you're doing all right with this virus. I've decided to do a bunch of these on a single day, so I don't know where this will is oriented to your life in relation to current events in regards to the coronavirus. But I hope you're well, your family's well, and you are um, seeing this in the peak of your health and vigor at this challenging time for the entire planet. Paying attention to the frequency and intensity of these oh, medical challenges that we've seen. I've been, I'm in my 50s now, and the older I get, the quicker these things have been coming and their intensity. So it's some things to pay attention to and look out for. What's this mean racially? Um, any disaster, any um, challenge that creeps up in America. Are there racial implications? Not as far as blame, but I'm taking as far as in the recovery process or in the process of securing resources, sustaining yourself and whatnot. Like, what's that mean to you as you grow, as you go through this, whether you're white, black, uh, another race, color in America, what's the implications for you? Like right now, right, you know, our biggest challenge when the news was breaking on the coronavirus was people fighting over toilet paper. I forget, oh, toilet paper and water. Okay, water I get, but we want to have a clean butt through the crisis. Yeah, and I mean, it's boy, it's a warning sign on America. And I don't know if those things, I haven't seen the videos of parties involved, all right, but it's interesting. But that's a warning sign to America. Like if things really get tight, like what side, where are you at? What side will you be on? Will you be taken care of or looked out for, right? We're ready to knife each other over toilet paper, Jack. Huh? What if you're looking at the last chicken? Huh? The last sweet potato, right? Mhm. Last bag of peas, huh? And 50 people have showed up, out of food. So it's something. And what's that look like racially, right? I mean, we see what America has done when we were well supplied, right? When there was no pressure, economic pressure, right? But when you think about Rosewood, Tulsa, Oklahoma, other successful black communities, other black Wall Streets all around the land doing well. When there is no um, pandemic, pathogen, you know, even in the Great Depression, you didn't hear about whole communities being sacked, you know, motivated by some great need by another group. Hmm? But when, but you also, but like, later, years later, when black people organize and get their local economy going, you know, then you have white folks reaching out and making an excuse to burn, rape, and pillage that community or that leader, right? And some of those things go on. What's that look like when the food has run out, when there is no clean water, when law enforcement is non-existent? I mean, we look at some of the movies that have been created, you know, back in recent history, Book of Eli, Denzel Washington, you know, some of the panic that can ensue. You think about Will Smith in I Am Legend. Plenty of movies like that through histories, but it makes you think, you know, um, to be a minority, right? If I got my own apartment and I stay pretty shut in, I'm hopefully using the time wisely to study. But what if I woke up in the morning and I'm the last black man in a space inundated with white folks? Where's my, what would be my place in that scenario? So those are the things, some of the things you really want to think about, use this time. We're going to get through this time. I think there's going to be a time, whether it's war, disease, natural disaster, something like that, where it's going to be the big one. And humanity just takes total regression back to its beginning roots. Uh, I believe that can happen on the planet. But then also think about like um, these little um, kind of preparatory events to make us think. Maybe a few more canned goods over here that you just never touch, that you put away, and some water, some survival issues. Do you know how to live in the woods? Right? I've been I guess I bet you most of the white people that I know and am friends with can live in the woods, know how to live in the woods, know how to take down, dress an animal, pre- in preparation for consumption and things like that. Making clean water, having an apparatus and chemicals to make that a possibility, right? For you, I'm rusty on it, fuzzy on it. I've only been outdoors a little bit, and it's been so fun, and we had a little campfires and stuff. But what about when if it ever becomes a necessity? Are you ready for that? I talked about this a little while ago, um, early on in this series about that. That's something to think about. But anyway, the um, our forum here is about race, and with this current events of pandemics and stress and whatnot, what's that look like for us? What are we doing and dealing with here? Think about it. I'm inspired to do this work by a man named Dr. Claude Anderson. I've read a couple of his works, watched a bunch of his videos. He's easy to find. He's here on YouTube, and he can articulate these things way much better than I can. Hope to Hope to meet him someday. I've never met the man. But his message was timely for me. I was going through some things, and I never put racism. I've never positioned racism where it was supposed to be. This country's built on racism. So, any conversation about wealth, resources, rights, privileges that does not include race is a conversation that's that's going to be lacking in some way in its clarity and potency, because otherwise we're just glossing over. But we can't forget that race is a very important part of what's going on in any conversation here in America, land of the free, home of the brave. Dr. Anderson's written some great works. I want you to get these books or get any others. I'll tell you where to go to his website to get other resources. Black History Reader, 101 Questions You Never Thought to Ask. Very good book. Once I started reading that, I think I read it in like a day or two. I mean, it just breezed right through it. It's just so packed full of interesting little facts. Black Labor, White Wealth, Search for Power and Economic Justice. And Dr. Anderson's National Plan to Empower Black America, PowerNomics. You can find Dr. Anderson at PowerNomics.com. Here on YouTube, easy guy to find. Plenty of great resources. You definitely want to check him out. Behind me, you'll see the hashtag #US2 symbol. You'll find Black women conversing, having fellowship support. I think that's their Facebook. I've not visited that space in a little while. I'm overdue. Check out Black Enough, BLAGGENUF, kind of a Black Facebook experience. For our business people, check out Dr. Boyce Watkins at the Black Business School, at theblackbusinessschool.com. And we have story time. Although we've finished this book, well, we will go maybe do some reviews here and there as we get closer to that 365. I'm not sure how I'm going to position that yet. I just wanted to get more of our factual stuff, and I think it's timely in light of current events with the virus and things like that. If you can't find your flavor and all the searching you've done to get, to find a community or someone to hear, do what I did. Start your own little gig and see if maybe you'll light the world on fire with your thought and idea. It doesn't have to be racism. You could cook, fish, drive cars, review electronics. Yeah, the sky's the limit. The sky, astronomy. All right, today we are in PowerNomics, page 229. If you have that text, which I encourage you to get as much as you can, especially from Dr. Claude Anderson. His resume speaks for itself. He's quite qualified to articulate some of these issues. He's been around the world, been involved in politics, education, the military. He's got a very diverse background, understanding of how blacks are positioned and oriented in America. Today we're going to talk to then about the black churches, and I've got I'm not going to lean too heavily on it, but I've got some I don't know, some issues with black church. It could be it's where black people congregate, at least in the most healthy manner, and it could be the source of such change and diversity and whatnot. And to some degree, it is very much Not historically, the black church has kind of struggled because religion in America, speaking of slavery, was monitored by white power, so that the preacher on any given Sunday was not inciting um, slaves to revolt or run away. Um, Preaching was so much more about you know slavery being okay in the world, sanctioned by God, and putting white people in charge of that. You know, not so much today. Does black churches not beholden or does not need to be afraid to move forward in its ability and desire to um, organize black folks and move as a unit, as Dr. King did, with his whole thing. It's began in the church because that's where black people were. Uh, Sometimes this message is hard to articulate because the news headlines don't have any recent oppressions and things like that, or current events overshadow any consideration for black concerns in America. But I always have to remember that this is almost an ideal racism, right? The whips and the rapes and the chains and stealing labor and some of that. I think racism might even been like, whoa, that's a little much, right? You're killing off, you're breaking the spirit of what could be um, better subjects, right? Without that dysfunction. Um, but the quietness in the nation racially and all that. And this is aside from the virus. Um, the lack of violence, lack of overt oppression and stuff like that. That's a nice, it's a nice quiet kind of racism where you get the appearance of where people have locked elbows, but where you know black people are still have their place of disadvantage, and white folks are advantaged. They're managers. They're building big businesses. Uh, they're uh, creating millionaires and billionaires at a much higher rate than black folks and things like that. So I say that to say, we'll never get too far from the need to talk about racism in America. You know, I say it's real. I've experienced it just even within the last year, 2019. But we don't want to be ignorant of it just because it's quiet. That's one complaint about the virus, right? You're asymptomatic. You don't have symptoms. Um, and just going out and still healthy and stuff like that, right? You're gathering and still trying to live and manage a life when this virus is invisible. It's highly infectious. It's easily transmittable and all this stuff, right? Yeah, it looks quiet out there, but death is lurking about. And so you see us, the America on CNN and the health experts, CDC, and things like that are pulling their hair out, going crazy over this uh, placid scene in America, but it's death out there. Racism the same way. It's nice and quiet. We don't see lynchings and black people hanging from trees, right, for a while now and whatnot. But racism still is still out there. It's out there. In light of that, black churches could help being more creative and empowering black people. Creativity coming from the pulpit. The leadership is right there in the pulpit. Um, we can reinvigorate. This semester, I'm writing on a man named Soren Kierkegaard, and a Danish philosopher, theologian, to some degree, and he's created this whole system around Abraham sacrificing Isaac, some very powerful stuff. But revisiting, because some of our preaching, I can get where some people get irritated that we miss the idea of going potentially to hell and some of the consequences of not being in a proper orientation or relationship with God. I don't hear it anymore. And even not so much that, but like challenging people to really understand what they believe this and stuff, how to come to believe better um, engagement in the Word of God, things like that. Um, I'm not seeing that much in churches. I kind of gather I do that stuff on my own, but you don't see it en masse and publicly much anymore. I can't think of the last time I've seen or heard that. And I don't go to church much, so that's, you can call it even on that point. This is a time where the black church can watch out in the pandemic. Um, Not just the public gatherings, but keep an ear out on changes in the land. Um, the church is always been the tool for improving black life, although times have changed. Dr. Anderson, he he wants more economic education. I'm totally in agreement with that. Buying a house. More to you want to under by financial education. I'm taking him to mean more than your savings account, but I'm talking about 401ks, stocks, diversity, precious metals, buying a home, owning land, power of money, how to get a product that's going to give you some compound interest in the land. Well, the church has to come to some terms and realization of that. You know, um, we need to understand. We need to understand that economic language within white control. What's that look like? What's that mean? That um, white people are, how do we wriggle out of and up from under white control? I mean, you notice, like, I mean, and you can understand this. What I'm about to say is, you notice how every time you get a piece of privilege, there's some piece of white control is waiting there with its hands out that you've got to pay either for the licensing or to get the ownership. It's usually through white influence. Somewhere at the top, there's always this white face around as you try to move up a level in life, there's that white response now ready to cradle you in its arms and uh, show you the light, provide you a product to get you compliant and all that. Um, and it's sad. So, um, part of, and this is one of Dr. Anderson's big pet peeves is to interact, ethno aggregate with your own kind if possible. If black people now have a better product, better service, you gotta give them that. You got to try to, if you have some hesitancy in that area, you've got to try to overcome that and see if you can interact and give black folks a chance. That's something I got to work on. I've got to be publicly honest about that. I got to work on that because I'm conditioned. Well, black folks are conditioned to just we turn off our thinking and we gravitate towards white provisions, so to speak. And that's a tough one to break. That's what we're conditioned for. We're trusted. That's by design, by the way. Don't feel guilty about it. It's by total design that we would feel that way and have some resistance to black business if you kind of struggle in those things like me as I get honest here. Now, Dr. Anderson gives us four important points, and I added a fifth. Let's just run through them. Time's getting away from us there. Um, uh, he says first, primarily, this is the realm of religion, gain a new black spirituality, um, explore some other philosophers. Now, Soren Kierkegaard is a white dude, the Danish, but he's the from the mid 1800s, old philosophical stuff, you know. But listen, we this I was thinking about this, right? Oh boy, I'm not studying any black philosophers. This is Western culture, baby. Like this is where its culture overshadowed and all influenced through European white culture, power, and things like that. So it's not bad to have desire, want to understand what informs white power, white culture in America. And it's guys, it's a lot of white guys. There's women and black women and colorful women in there as well. But when you go to study, you're going to be introduced overwhelmingly to white men: Kant, Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, Kierkegaard, Nietzsche, right? Hegel, just big white male names in philosophy. And trust me, these are then inform white culture. Let's move on. Um, Black church could be that the creative, the cauldron, the melting pot, melting pot for new black culture. Um, Not only have a new black spirituality, but encourage it. And four, and prepare black people to compete. Right? A survivalist example with this virus. If things fall apart, electricity goes out, food, do black people know how to go out into the woods, kill and dress an animal, prepare it for consumption? I need to learn that. I could fish, but what if the water's messed up? Anyway, And I put in the last one. The last point is important, and I kind of started the discussion with this, is that just because it's quiet, we're not being lynched, maybe avoiding incarceration. Right now, we got a virus working through right now. It doesn't mean that racism has abated or disappeared. Racism is still here, and we still need to um, be aware of it, resist it, do our best, right, to lay our foundation to get, um, I don't know, to get as far as we can in our idea of success and self-determination in the land. I'm over time. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'm Tom Nyback. That's day 315 out of the way. Thanks for joining me. Again, come back. I got plenty more. Me and a lot of other people have downtime. So let's make some videos. I'll see you next time.